So let's start the chapter 2, Human Reproduction. As you are aware, humans are sexually reproducing and viviparous. The reproductive events in human include formation of gamete, that is gametogenesis, that is sperms in male and ovum in females, transfer of sperm into the female genital tract, that is insemination, and fusion of male and female gamete, that is fertilization, leading to formation of zygote. This is followed by formation and development of blastocyst and its attachment to the uterine wall, that is implantation. Embryonic development is known as gestation and delivery of the baby known as parturition. You have learned that these reproductive events occurs after puberty. There are remarkable differences between the reproductive events in the male and in the female. For example, sperm formation continues even in old men, but formation of ovum ceases in women around the age of 50 years. Let us examine the male and the female reproductive system in human. We are going to read the male reproductive system. The male reproductive system is located in the pelvis ring. It includes a pair of testes along with the accessory ducts, glands, and the external genitalia. It includes a pair of testes along with accessory ducts, glands, and the external genitalia. ठीक है, pair of testes along with accessory ducts, glands, and the external genitalia. Understood? हो गया सेट दिमाग में? ठीक है, चलो आगे. The testes are situated outside the abdominal cavity within a pouch called scrotum. The scrotum helps in maintaining the low temperature of the testes, that is 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius, lower than the normal internal body temperature, necessary for spermatogenesis. यहाँ पे कुछ भी चेंज कर सकता है, बट करेक्ट है 2 से लेके 2.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस लोअर देन द नॉर्मल इंटरनल बॉडी टेम्परेचर. लोअर की जगह हायर कर सकता है, बट ठीक है ना. In adults, each testis is oval in shape with a length of about 4 to 5 cm and a width of about 2 to 3 cm. Length of about 4 to 5 cm. कितनी लेंथ? 4 से 5 cm and width of about 2 to 3 cm. width कितनी है? 2 से 3 cm. लेंथ है 4 से 5 cm. ठीक है. The testis is covered by a dense covering. Each testis has about 250 compartments called testicular lobules. ठीक है? Clear? So each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules in which sperms are produced. ठीक है? Clear? Each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules in which sperms are produced. Each seminiferous tubule is lined on its inside by 2 types of cells called male germ cells, that is spermatogonia and Sertoli cell. ठीक है? Each seminiferous tubule is lined on its inside की जगह चेंज करके outside कर सकता है, but correct है inside by 2 types of cells called male germ cells known as spermatogonia and Sertoli cells. ठीक है? Clear? So let's proceed further. Okay? The male germ cells undergo meiotic divisions, finally leading to sperm formation, while Sertoli cells provide nutrition to the germ cell. The rings outside the seminiferous tubules, called the interstitial spaces, contain small blood vessels and interstitial cells or Leydig cell. Interstitial cells को Leydig cells कहते हैं. ठीक है? Leydig cells synthesize and secrete testicular hormone called androgens. ठीक है, Leydig cells synthesize and secrete testicular hormone called androgens. Clear? Other immunological competent cells are also present. Leydig cells synthesize and secrete testicular hormones called androgen. ठीक है, other immunological competent cells are also present. धीरे चल रहा है ना थोड़ा स्पीड. ठीक है. The male sex accessory ducts include rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis and vasa deferens. This is very important line. The male sex accessory ducts include rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis and vasa deferens. ठीक है, क्लियर. चार एक बार और पढ़ देता हूँ. रेटे टेस्टिस, वासा एफरेंशिया, वासा डिफरेंस एंड वन मोर इज एपिडाइडिमिस. क्लियर. द seminiferous tubules of the testis opens into the vasa efferentia through the rete testis. The vasa efferentia leaves the testis and opens into the epididymis located along the posterior surface of the each testis. Located along the posterior, कौन सा वाला? Located along the posterior surface of each testis. The epididymis leads to vasa deferens that ascends to the abdomen and loops over the urinary bladder. It receives a duct from the seminal vesicle and opens into a urethra as a ejaculatory duct. It receives a duct from the seminal vesicle and opens into urethra as the ejaculatory duct. As a ejaculatory duct. These ducts store and transport the sperms from the testis to the outside through urethra. The urethra originates from the urinary bladder and extends through the penis to its external opening called urethral meatus. Once again I am repeating it. These ducts store and transport the sperm from the testis to the outside through the urethra. कौन सी duct? Seminal vesicles. It receives epididymis. The epididymis leads to vasa deferens that ascends to the abdomen and loops over the urinary bladder. It receives a duct from the seminal vesicle and opens into the urethra, common ejaculatory duct. This duct store, कौन सी duct? Ejaculatory duct, and transport the sperm from the testis to the outside through urethra. The urethra originates from the urinary bladder and extends through the penis to its external opening called urethral meatus. ठीक है, क्लियर. यहाँ पर डायग्राम दिया हुआ है, डायग्रामेटिकल सेक्शन व्यू ऑफ सेमिनिफेरस ट्यूबल्स का डायग्राम दिया हुआ है. ठीक है. द पेनिस इज द मेल एक्सटर्नल जेनिटेलिया. इट इज मेड अप ऑफ स्पेशल टिश्यूज दैट हेल्प्स इन erection of the penis to facilitate insemination. The enlarged end of penis called the glans penis is covered by a loose fold of skin called foreskin. The enlarged end of penis called the glans penis is covered by a loose fold of skin called foreskin. The male accessory glands include paired seminal vesicle, a prostate and a paired bulbotherial gland. Paired जो है, एक तो seminal vesicle है और bulbotherial gland, both are paired, and a prostate. और ठीक है. The male accessory glands include paired seminal vesicles, a prostate and a paired bulbotherial gland. ठीक है, prostate single. Secretion of these glands constitute the seminal plasma, which is rich in fructose, calcium and certain enzymes. Rich in fructose, calcium and certain enzymes. The secretion of bulbotherial glands also helps in the lubrication of the penis. Now we are going to read the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries along with a pair of oviducts, uterus, cervix, vagina and the external genitalia located in the pelvic rind. ये कौन सा राइंड में होता है? पेल्विक. और मेल किस में होता है? पेल्विस में. ठीक है, VIS और VIC में अंतर है. ठीक है. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries along with a pair of oviduct, uterus, cervix, vagina and the external genitalia located in the pelvic ring. Clear? These parts of the system along with a pair of mammary glands are integrated structurally and functionally to support the process of ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth and childcare. Ovaries are the primary female sex organs that produce the female gamete ovum and several steroid hormones, that is ovarian hormones. The ovaries are located one on each side of the lower abdomen. Each ovary is about 2 to 4 cm in length and is connected to the pelvic wall and uterus by ligament. Each ovary is कितने 2 से 4 cm means 2 to 4. 2 to 4 means डबल होगा, 2 से लेके 4. ठीक है, 2 करोगे तो 4 हो जाएगा, ऐसे याद रख सकते हो. ठीक है, and is connected to the pelvic wall and the uterus by ligaments. Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. यहाँ पे thin की जगह thick कर सकता है, but correct है. Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. The stroma is divided into two zones, a peripheral cortex and an inner medulla. ठीक है, stroma divided है two zones में, peripheral cortex and an inner medulla. ठीक है, डायग्राम दिया हुआ है यहाँ पे, female pelvis showing reproductive system. ठीक है, so the next is the oviduct, that is fallopian tubes, uterus and vagina constitute the female accessory duct. Female accessory duct में कौन कौन आते हैं? Oviducts, that is fallopian tube, uterus and the vagina. Uterus, vagina, oviduct. Uterus, vagina, oviduct. किस में आते हैं? फीमेल एसेसरी डक्ट्स में आते हैं. कौन कौन? ओविडक्ट, यूट्रस एंड वजाइना. ठीक है, दैट इज फैलोपियन ट्यूब, यूट्रस एंड वजाइना. किस किस में आते हैं? फीमेल एसेसरी डक्ट में आते हैं. ईच फैलोपियन ट्यूब इज अबाउट 10 to 12 centimeter long and extends from the periphery of each ovary to the uterus. The part closer to the ovary is a funnel-shaped infundibulum. Each fallopian tube is about 10 to 12. 10 to कर सकते हैं, जिसको प्लस बन के 12 होता है, तो 10 से 12 सेंटीमीटर लॉन्ग, ऐसे याद रख सकते हैं. एक्सटेंड फ्रॉम द पेरिफेरी टू ईच ओवरी टू द यूट्रस. द पार्ट क्लोजर टू द ओवरी is the funnel shaped called infundibulum. The edges of the infundibulum possesses finger-like projection called fimbriae, which help in the collection of the ovum after ovulation. किसमें हेल्प करता है? Collection of ovum after ovulation. The infundibulum leads to a wider part of the oviduct called the ampulla. ठीक है, कौन? The infundibulum leads to a wider part of the oviduct called ampulla. The last part of the oviduct, that is isthmus, has a narrow lumen and it joins the uterus. The last part of the oviduct, isthmus, has a narrow lumen and it joins the uterus. ठीक है, isthmus किसको ज्वाइन करता है? यूट्रस को. ठीक है, the uterus is a single and it is also called womb. The shape of the uterus is like an inverted pear. ठीक है, इन्वर्टेड पियर देखा है कभी? क्या मतलब होता है इन्वर्टेड पियर का? बताइए क्या होता है इन्वर्टेड पियर का मतलब? शेप ऑफ द यूट्रस होता है. ठीक है, it is supported by ligaments attached to the pelvic wall. The uterus opens into the vagina through a narrow cervix. Uterus कहाँ open होती है? Vagina, through a narrow cervix. The cavity of the cervix is called the cervical canal. ठीक है, cervix की cavity को क्या कहते हैं? Cervical canal. The cavity of cervix is called cervical canal, which along with the vagina forms the birth canal. ठीक है, along with the vagina forms the birth canal. Clear? Once again I am repeating it, listen it properly. ठीक है? The cavity of the cervix is called cervical canal, which along with the vagina forms the birth canal. ठीक है? The wall of the uterus has 3 layers of tissues: the external thin membranous perimetrium, a middle thick layer of smooth muscles myometrium, and an inner glandular layer called endometrium that lines the uterine cavity. ठीक है? Once again I am repeating it. The external thin, external होती है thin membranous जिसे perimetrium कहते हैं, middle होती है thick, middle thick layer of smooth muscles जिसे myometrium कहते हैं, और inner होती है glandular and inner glandular layer called endometrium that lines the uterine cavity. Uterine cavity को कौन लाइन करती है? Endometrium, जो कि inner glandular layer है. ठीक है? Clear है? The endometrium undergoes cyclical changes during menstrual cycle, while the myometrium exhibit a strong contraction during delivery of the baby. The female external genitalia include mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. Female external genitalia क्या क्या include करता है? Mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. Mons pubis is a cushion of fatty tissues covered by skin and pubic hair. ठीक है? Mons pubis is a cushion of fatty tissues covered by skin and pubic hair. The labia majora are the fleshy folds of the tissues which extend down from the mons pubis and surround the vaginal opening. किसको surround करती है? Vaginal opening को. ठीक है? Labia majora are fleshy folds of tissue which extend down from the mons pubis and surround the vaginal opening. Clear? The labia minora are paired folds of tissue under the labia majora. ठीक है? labia minora है labia majora के अंदर, are paired folds of tissue under the labia majora. The opening of the vagina is often covered partially by a membrane called the hymen. The clitoris is a tiny finger-like structure. Clitoris, finger-like structure है भाई साहब. The clitoris is a tiny finger-like structure which lies at the upper junction of the two labia minora above the urethral opening. कहाँ पे lie करता है? At the upper junction of the two labia minora above the urethral opening. The hymen is often torn during the first coitus, that is intercourse. However, it can also be broken by a sudden fall or jolt, insertion of vaginal tampon, active participation in some sports like horseback riding, cycling, etc. In some women, the hymen persists even after coitus. In fact, the presence or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity or sexual experience. ठीक है? क्या नहीं है? इंडिकेटर नहीं है. किसका? वर्जिनिटी और सेक्सुअल एक्सपीरियंस का. कौन नहीं है? हाइमन. ठीक है? क्लियर है? फेमस लाइन हो तो याद ही होगी, क्या रिपीट करूँगा उसे. ठीक है? सो द नेक्स्ट वी आर प्रोसीडिंग फर्दर. ठीक है? यहाँ पे डायग्राम दिया हुआ है, डायग्रामेटिकल सेक्शनल व्यू ऑफ ममारी ग्लैंड दिया हुआ है. ठीक है? सो द नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ इज A functional mammary gland is characteristic of all female mammals. The mammary glands are paired structure that is breast that contain glandular tissue and variable amount of fat. The glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes containing clusters of cells called alveoli. ठीक है? The glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes containing clusters of cells called alveoli. The cells of the alveoli secrete milk, which is stored in the cavity, that is lumens of alveoli. In the cavity of alveoli में store होता है, में secrete milk which is stored in the cavity of alveoli. The alveoli opens into the mammary tubules. The tubules of each lobe join to form mammary duct Several mammary ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla, which is connected to a lactiferous duct through which milk is sucked out. Once again, I am repeating it. The glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes containing clusters of cells called alveoli. The cells of the alveoli secrete milk, which is stored in the cavity lumens of alveoli. The alveoli opens into the mammary tubules. The tubules of each lobe join to form a mammary duct. The tubules of each lobe join to form a mammary duct. Several mammary ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla, which is connected to lactiferous duct through which milk is sucked out. Next, we are going to read gametogenesis. The primary sex organ, the testis in males and the ovaries in the female, produce gametes, that is sperms and the ovums respectively, by the process called gametogenesis. In testes, the immature male germ cells, spermatogonia, produce sperms by spermatogenesis that begins at the puberty. The spermatogonia, singular spermatogonium, present on the inside wall of the seminiferous tubules, multiply by mitotic division and increase in number. Each spermatogonium is diploid and contains 46 chromosomes. कितने? 46 chromosomes. Some of the spermatogonia called primary spermatocytes periodically undergo meiosis. A primary spermatocytes complete the first meiotic division, that is reduction division, leading to the formation of two equal haploid cells called secondary spermatocytes. Two equal haploid cells called secondary spermatocytes. ठीक है? Which have only 23 chromosomes each. किसमें? secondary spermatocyte में, which have only 23 chromosomes each. The secondary spermatocytes undergo the second meiotic division to produce 4 equal haploid spermatids. To form 4 equal haploid spermatids. What would be the number of chromosomes in the spermatids? Question again पढ़ रहा हूँ, ध्यान से सुनना. What would be the number of chromosomes in the spermatids? नंबर चेंज होगा? नहीं होगा ना. The number of chromosomes in a spermatid is 23. ठीक है? कितने हैं? 23. The spermatids are transformed into the spermatozoa sperm by the process called spermiogenesis. अटीट से जोआ बनाने को कहते हैं spermiogenesis. After spermiogenesis, sperm heads become embedded in the Sertoli cells and are finally released from the seminiferous tubules by the process called spermiation. The spermatids are transformed into the spermatozoa, that is sperms, by the process called spermiogenesis. After spermiogenesis, sperm head become embedded in the Sertoli cells and finally released from the seminiferous tubule by the process of spermiation. स्पर्मियोजेनेसिस के बाद होता है स्पर्मिएशन. ठीक है, यहाँ पर डायग्राम दिया हुआ है, सेक्शनल व्यू ऑफ सेमिनिफेरस ट्यूबल्स. नीचे दिया हुआ है स्पर्मेटोगोनियम, सेर्टोली सेल, प्राइमरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट, सेकेंडरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट, स्पर्मेटिड और स्पर्मेटोजोआ दिखाया हुआ उसमें. ठीक है. तो द नेक्स्ट इज स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस स्टार्ट्स एट द एज ऑफ प्यूबर्टी ड्यू टू सिग्निफिकेंट इंक्रीज इन द सेक्रेशन ऑफ गोनेडोट्रोपिन रिलीजिंग हार्मोन, that is GnRH. This, if you call, is a hypothalamic hormone. कौन सा हार्मोन है? हाइपोथैलेमिक हार्मोन. ठीक है. The increased level of GnRH, that is gonadotropin releasing hormone, then acts at the anterior pituitary gland and stimulates secretion of two gonadotropins, that is luteinizing hormone LH and follicle stimulating hormone FSH. LH acts at the Leydig cell and stimulates synthesis and secretion of androgen. LH acts at the Leydig cell and stimulates synthesis and secretion of androgens. Androgens in turn stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. ठीक है. Androgens in turn stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. FSH acts on the Sertoli cell. FSH कहाँ पे एक्ट करते हैं? Sertoli cell. FSH acts on the Sertoli cells and stimulate secretion of some factor which help in the process of spermiogenesis. कौन सी प्रोसेस में हेल्प करते हैं? स्पर्मियोजेनेसिस. ठीक है, यहाँ पे डायग्राम दिया हुआ है स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ स्पर्म का, जिसमें ऊपर है प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन, फिर उसके नीचे एक्रोसोम, न्यूक्लियस कंटेनिंग क्रोमोसोमल मटेरियल, नेक दी हुई है, मिडिल पीस दिया हुआ है, माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया दिया हुआ है, एनर्जी सोर्स फॉर स्विमिंग कौन है? माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया. स्पर्म में एनर्जी सोर्स फॉर स्विमिंग कौन है? माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया. ऑब्जेक्टिव बन सकता है डायग्राम से. ठीक है, लेट अस एग्जामिन द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ स्पर्म. इट इज अ माइक्रोस्कोपिक स्ट्रक्चर composed of head, neck, a middle piece and a tail. क्या क्या? head, neck, a middle piece and a tail. Clear? A plasma membrane envelops the whole body of the sperm. The sperm head contains an elongated haploid nucleus, the anterior portion of which is covered by a cap-like structure, that is acrosome. The acrosome is filled with enzymes that help fertilization of the ova. Acrosome is filled with the enzymes that help fertilization of the ova. ठीक है. The middle piece possesses numerous mitochondria. कौन सा पीस पोसेस करता है? numerous mitochondria, middle piece, which produce energy for the movement of tail that facilitate sperm motility, essential for fertilization. The human male ejaculates about 200 to 300 million sperms during a coitus, of which for normal fertility at least 60% sperm must have normal shape and size, and at least 40% of them must show vigorous motility. 60% का होना चाहिए नॉर्मल शेप एंड साइज, 40% की होनी चाहिए मस्ट शो विग्रस मोटिलिटी. ठीक है, क्लियर? कितने इजैकुलेट करते हैं? 200 से 300 मिलियन स्पर्म ड्यूरिंग ए कॉइटस. So next is sperms released from the seminiferous tubules are transported by the accessory duct. किससे ट्रांसपोर्ट होते हैं? accessory ducts. Secretion of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle and prostate are essential for the maturation and motility of sperms. किसका secretion? Secretion of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle and prostate are essential for maturation and motility of sperms. Clear? हो गया सेट दिमाग में? The seminal plasma along with the sperm constitute the semen. Clear? The seminal plasma along with the sperms constitute the semen. The function of the male sex accessory ducts and the glands are maintained by the testicular hormones, that is androgens. Function of male sex accessory duct and glands are maintained by the testicular hormones androgens. The process of formation of a mature female gamete is called oogenesis, which is marked different from spermatogenesis. Oogenesis is initiated during the embryonic development stage when a couple of million gametes, that is mother cell oogonia, are formed within each fetal ovary. No more oogonia are formed and added after birth. ठीक है? These cells start division and enters into the process first of the meiotic division and gets temporarily arrested at that stage. ठीक है? These cells, कौन से सेल्स की बात हो रही है यहाँ पे? oogonia की. ठीक है? These cells start division. This cells start division and enters into the process first. कौन सा phase? Process first of the meiotic division and get temporarily arrested at that stage. Clear? Called primary oocyte. जिसे क्या कहते हैं? Primary oocyte. ठीक है? अरेस्ट होते हैं process first meiotic division के. ठीक है? Each primary oocyte then gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells and is called the primary follicle. Each primary oocyte then gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells and is called the primary follicle. Clear? ठीक है, तो चलो बढ़ते हैं आगे. A large number of these follicles degenerate during the phase from birth to puberty. Therefore, at puberty only 60,000 to 80,000. कितने? At puberty only 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. 60,000 से लेके 80,000 तक. ठीक है. The primary follicles get surrounded by more layers of granulosa cells and a new theca and are called secondary follicles. The primary follicles get surrounded by more layer of granulosa cells and a new theca and are called secondary follicles. The secondary follicle soon transform into a tertiary follicle, which is characterized by a fluid-filled cavity called andra. The theca layer is organized into an inner theca interna and an outer theca externa. Inner theca interna and outer theca externa. It is important to draw your attention that it is at this stage that the primary oocyte within the tertiary follicles grow in size and completes its first meiotic division. Clear? It is important to draw your attention that it is at this stage that the primary oocyte within the tertiary follicle grow in size and completes its first meiotic division. ठीक है? It is an unequal division resulting in the formation of a large haploid secondary oocyte and a tiny first polar body. ठीक है? So the next is the secondary oocyte retains bulk of the nutrient rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. The secondary oocyte retains bulk of the nutrient rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. ठीक है? Can you think of any advantage for this? Does the first polar body born out of the first meiotic division divide further or degenerate? Question सुनो वापस ध्यान से. Does the first polar body born out of the first meiotic division divide further or degenerate? क्या करती है? So answer is the first polar body formed during the first meiotic division of oogenesis usually degenerates and does not divide further. ठीक है? आगे डिवाइड नहीं होती है. ठीक है? Clear? At present, we are not very certain about this. The tertiary follicle further changes into the mature follicle or Graafian follicle. कौन से? Mature follicle or Graafian follicle. The secondary oocyte forms a new membrane called the zona pellucida. कौन सी फॉर्म करती है? Secondary oocyte forms a new membrane called the zona pellucida surrounding it. The Graafian follicle now ruptures to release the secondary oocyte, that is ovum. जिसे secondary oocyte कहते हैं from the ovary by the process called ovulation. The secondary oocyte forms a new membrane called zona pellucida surrounding it. The Graafian follicle now ruptures to release the secondary oocyte, that is ovum, from the ovary by the process called ovulation. Can you identify major difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis? A diagrammatic representation of spermatogenesis and oogenesis is given in the figure. ठीक है? यहाँ पे दो डायग्राम दिए हुए हैं. ठीक है? और एक और डायग्राम दिया हुआ है, डायग्रामेटिक सेक्शन व्यू ऑफ ओवरी दिया हुआ है. ठीक है? ठीक है? उसके नीचे भी डायग्राम दिया हुआ है स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस और oogenesis का. चलो नेक्स्ट इज menstrual cycle. The reproductive cycle in the female primate, example monkey, apes and human being. Monkey, apes and human being is called menstrual cycle. The first menstruation begins at puberty and is called menarche. In human females, menstruation is repeated at an average interval of about 28 से लेके 29 days. and the cycle of events starting from one menstruation till the next one is called the menstrual cycle. One ovum is released, that is ovulation, during the middle. One ovum is released, that is ovulation, during the middle of each menstrual cycle. During the middle of each menstrual cycle. The major events of the menstrual cycle are shown in the figure 2.9. ठीक है, यहाँ पे फिगर दिया हुआ है, menstruation दिया हुआ है, follicular phase जिसे proliferative phase कहते हैं, luteal phase जिसे secretory phase कहते हैं, और फिर नेक्स्ट साइकिल बिगिन करती है. ठीक है, डायग्राम दिया हुआ है यहाँ पे LHFSH पिक दिखाया हुआ है. ठीक है. The major events of the menstrual cycle are depicted in the figure 2.9. The cycle starts with the menstrual phase, when menstrual flow occurs and it lasts for 3 to 5 days. कितने? 3 से लेके 5 days. 3, 2 कितने होता है? 5. ऐसे याद रख सकते हो. The menstrual flow results due to breakdown of endometrial lining of uterus and its blood vessels, which form liquid that comes out through the vagina. The menstrual flow results due to breakdown of endometrial lining of the uterus and its blood vessels, which forms liquid that comes out through vagina. Menstruation only occurs if the released ovum is not fertilized. Lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy. However, it may also be caused due to some other underlying causes like stress, poor health, etc. The menstrual phase is followed by the follicular phase. During this phase, the primary follicle in the ovary grow to become a fully mature Graafian follicle, and simultaneously the endometrium of the uterus regenerates through the proliferation. Once again I am repeating, the menstrual phase is followed by the follicular phase. During this phase, the primary follicle in the ovary grow to become a fully mature Graafian follicle, and simultaneously the endometrium of the uterus regenerates through proliferation. These changes in the ovary and the uterus are induced by changes in the level of pituitary and ovarian hormones. किसके? By the changes in the level of pituitary and ovarian hormones. The secretion of gonadotropins, that is LH and FSH, increases gradually during the follicular phase. कौन से phase की टाइम पे increase होते हैं? Follicular phase की टाइम. किसका secretion? Gonadotropins LH and FSH increases gradually during the follicular phases and stimulates follicular development as well as secretion of estrogen by the growing follicles. Both LH and FSH attain a peak level in the middle of cycle up about 14th day. कौन? Both LH and FSH attain a peak level in the middle of cycle about 14th day. Rapid secretion of LH leading to its maximum level during the mid-cycle called LH surge induce rupture of Graafian follicle and thereby the release of ovum, that is ovulation. Rapid secretion of LH leading to its maximum level during the mid-cycle called the LH surge induces rupture of Graafian follicles and thereby the release of ovum, that is ovulation. Clear? हो गया set? The ovulation, that is ovulatory phase, is followed by the luteal phase, during which the remaining parts of the Graafian follicle transforms as the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum secretes large amount of progesterone. CP से याद रख सकते हो. The corpus luteum secretes large amount of progesterone, which is essential for maintenance of the endometrium. Such an endometrium is necessary for implantation of the fertilized ovum and other events of pregnancy. During pregnancy, all events of the menstrual cycle stop and there is no menstruation. In the absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates. This causes disintegration of the endometrium, leading to menstruation, marking a new cycle. In human being, the menstrual cycle ceases around 50 years of age. कौन सी 50 year of age? That is termed as menopause. Cyclic menstruation is an indicator of normal reproductive phase and extends between the menarche and menopause. यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है बॉक्स में menstrual hygiene. पढ़ देता हूँ स्पीड में, ठीक है? काम का तो नहीं है वैसे. Maintenance of hygiene and sanitation during menstruation is very important. Take bath and clean yourself regularly. Use sanitary napkins or clean homemade pads. Then sanitary napkins or homemade pads after every 4 to 5 hours as per the requirement. Dispose the used sanitary napkins properly, wrapping it with a used paper. Do not throw the used napkins in the drain pipe of toilets or in the open area. After handling the napkin, wash hands with soap. Wash hands with soap. साबुन से हाथ धो लो, ठीक है? So the next is fertilization and implantation. क्या पढ़ रहे हैं next? Fertilization and implantation, ठीक है? So let's start. During copulation, that is coitus, semen is released by the penis into the vagina. That is insemination. क्या कहते हैं जिसे? Insemination, ठीक है? The motile sperm swims rapidly, pass through the cervix, enters into the uterus and finally reach the ampullary line of the fallopian tube. The ovum released by the ovary is also transported to the ampullary line where fertilization takes place. Fertilization can only occur if the sperm and the ovum are transported simultaneously to the ampullary line. ठीक है? कब हो सकता है? Fertilization can only occur if the ovum and the sperm are transported simultaneously to the ampullary line. मीन्स दोनों साथ में आएंगे तभी होगा, ठीक है? एक साथ, ठीक है? क्लियर? This is the reason why not all copulation lead to fertilization in pregnancy. Clear? Diagram दिया हुआ है यहाँ पे, ovum surrounded by few sperms. The process of fusion of a sperm with an ovum is called fertilization. Process of fusion of sperm with an ovum is called fertilization. क्या कहते हैं? Fertilization. During fertilization, a sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum. कौन सी layer? Zona pellucida layer of ovum. And induces changes in the membrane that block the entry of additional sperms. That blocks the entry of the additional sperms. ठीक है? Thus, it ensures that only one sperm can fertilize an ovum. Thus, it ensures that only one sperm can fertilize an ovum. The secretion of the acrosome helps the sperm enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. The secretion of the acrosome helps the sperm enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. This induces the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte. कुछ भी कर सकते हैं, चेंज इसलिए स्लो चल रहा है अपन और लाइन धीरे धीरे पढ़ रहे हैं. This induces the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte. The second meiotic division is also unequal. यहाँ पे इक्वल कर सकता है बट करेक्ट है unequal, and result in the formation of second polar body and a haploid ovum, that is oocyte. Soon the haploid nucleus of the sperm and that of the ovum fuse together to form a diploid zygote. How many chromosomes will be there in the zygote? कितने क्रोमोसोम होंगे zygote में? यह पूछा गया है अपन से. कितने होंगे zygote में? 46 होंगे ना, क्योंकि डिप्लॉयड है zygote 2n. ठीक है? क्लियर? सही बताया ना? One has to remember that the sex of the baby has been decided at this stage itself. ठीक है? At this stage itself. Let us see how As you know, the chromosome pattern in the human female is XX and that in the male is XY. Therefore, all the haploid gametes that is ova produced by the female have the sex chromosome X, whereas in the male gametes sperm, the sex chromosome could be either X or Y. Hence, 50% of the sperms carry the X chromosome while the other 50% carry the Y. After the fusion of the male and the female gametes, the zygote would carry either XX or XY, depending on whether the sperm carrying X or Y fertilize the ovum. The zygote carrying XX would develop into a female baby and XY would form a male. You will learn more about this in the chromosomal pattern in chapter 5. Okay? That is why scientifically it is correct to say that the sex of the baby is determined by the father and not by the mother. Okay? Clear? So the next is the mitotic division starts as the zygote moves through the isthmus of the oviduct called cleavage towards the uterus and forms 2, 4, 8, 16 daughter cells called blastomeres. The mitotic division starts as the zygote moves through the isthmus of the oviduct called cleavage towards the uterus and forms 2, 4, 8, 16 daughter cells called blastomeres. The embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres is called a morula. Clear? The embryo with 8 to 16 blastomere is called a morula. याद रख सकते हो 8 और 8 डबल होते हैं 16, तो 8 से लेके 8 to 16 blastomere is called morula. The morula continues to divide and transform into the blastocyst. Morula किस में ट्रांसफॉर्म होता है? blastocyst. As it moves further into the uterus, the morula continues to divide and transform into the blastocyst as it moves further into the uterus. कहाँ पे मूव करता है? further uterus में. The blastomeres in the blastocyst are arranged into an outer layer called trophoblast and an inner group of cells attached to the trophoblast called the inner cell mass. Clear? The blastomeres in the blastocyst are arranged into an outer layer called a trophoblast and an inner group of cells attached to the trophoblast called the inner cell mass. The trophoblast layer then gets attached to the endometrium and the inner cell mass gets differentiated as the embryo. कौन differentiate होता है? Inner cell mass. The blastomere in the blastocyst are arranged into an outer layer trophoblast and inner group of cells attached to the trophoblast called the inner cell mass. The trophoblast layer then gets attached to the endometrium and the inner cell mass gets differentiated as the embryo. After attachment, the uterine cells divide rapidly and covers the blastocyst. As a result, the blastocyst become embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. कहाँ पे embedded होता है? Endometrium of the uterus. This is called implantation and it leads to the pregnancy. To what it leads? Pregnancy. So the next is pregnancy and embryo development. After implantation, finger-like projection appear on the trophoblast. कहाँ पे appear होते हैं? Trophoblast पे. Called chorionic villi, which are surrounded by the uterine tissue and maternal blood. किससे surrounded होते हैं? Uterine tissue and maternal blood से surrounded होते हैं. ठीक है? The chorionic villi and uterus tissue become interdigitate with each other and jointly form a structural and functional unit between developing embryo, that is fetus, and maternal body called the placenta. Clear? Again I am repeating it. The chorionic villi and uterine tissue become interdigitate with each other and joints form a structural and functional unit between developing embryo, that is fetus, and maternal blood called placenta. The placenta facilitates the supply of oxygen and nutrients to the embryo and also removal of carbon dioxide and excretory waste material produced by the embryo. किस किस में हेल्प करता है प्लेसेंटा? किस किस में? द प्लेसेंटा फैसिलिटेट द सप्लाई ऑफ ऑक्सीजन एंड न्यूट्रिएंट्स टू द एम्ब्रियो एंड ऑल्सो रिमूवल ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड एक्सक्रिएटरी वेस्ट मटेरियल प्रोड्यूस्ड बाय द एम्ब्रियो. द प्लेसेंटा इज कनेक्टेड टू द एम्ब्रियो थ्रू एन अम्बिलिकल कॉर्ड. किससे कनेक्टेड होता है? अम्बिलिकल कॉर्ड से. ठीक है. द प्लेसेंटा इज कनेक्टेड टू द एम्ब्रियो थ्रू एन अम्बिलिकल कॉर्ड which helps in the transport of substance to and from the embryo. एम्ब्रियो से और एम्ब्रियो तक. ठीक है. Placenta also acts as an endocrine tissue and produces several hormones like human chorionic gonadotropin (HCG), human placental lactogen (HPL), estrogens and progesterone, etc. Placenta also acts as endocrine tissue and produces several hormones. कौन कौन से several hormones? 4 hormones: HCG, HPL, estrogen and progesterone, etc. In the later phase of pregnancy, a hormone called relaxin is also secreted by the ovary. Relaxin is secreted by the ovary, correct? Let us remember that human chorionic gonadotropin hormone and human placental lactogen (HCG) and HPL and relaxin are produced in women during only pregnancy. Are produced in women only during pregnancy. कब produce होते हैं? Only pregnancy के time. In addition, during pregnancy, the levels of other hormones like estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, etc. are increased several folds in the maternal blood. In addition, during pregnancy, the level of other hormones like estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, etc. are increased several folds in the maternal blood. Increased production of this hormone is essential for supporting the fetal growth, metabolic changes in the mother and maintenance of pregnancy. Immediately after implantation, the inner cell mass embryo differentiate into an outer layer called ectoderm and an inner layer called endoderm. Immediately after implantation, the inner cell mass, that is embryo, differentiates into an outer layer called ectoderm and an inner layer called endoderm. A mesoderm soon appears between the ectoderm and the endoderm. These 3 layers give rise to all the tissues, that is organs, in adults. It needs to be mentioned here that the inner cell mass contains certain cells called stem cells which have the potency to give rise to all the tissues and organ. किसमें है potency? It needs to be mentioned here that inner cell mass contains certain cells called stem cells which have the potency to give rise to all the tissues and organ. सारे टिश्यू और ऑर्गन कौन बना सकता है? किसमें क्षमता है पोटेंसी? स्टेम सेल्स में. ठीक है. और इनर सेल मास में होते हैं, कुछ कंटेन करता है सर्टेन सेल, स्टेम सेल्स. ठीक है. व्हाट आर द मेजर फीचर्स ऑफ एम्ब्रियोनिक डेवलपमेंट एट वेरियस मंथ्स ऑफ प्रेगनेंसी? द ह्यूमन प्रेगनेंसी लास्ट 9 मंथ. कितने? 9 मंथ. डू यू नो फॉर हाउ मेनी मंथ प्रेगनेंसी लास्ट इन डॉग्स, एलिफेंट्स, कैट्स? पता है तुम्हें? Find out in human being after 1 month of pregnancy, the embryo heart is formed. After 1 month of pregnancy, embryo heart is formed. ठीक है. क्या बन जाता है 1 month की प्रेगनेंसी के बाद? Embryo heart is formed. The first sign of growing fetus may be noticed by listening to the heart sound carefully through the stethoscope. Carefully through the stethoscope. Clear है? समझे? Again I am repeating it. The first sign of growing fetus may be noticed by listening to the heart sound carefully through the stethoscope. In human being, after 1 month of pregnancy, the embryo's heart is formed. By the end of the 2nd month of pregnancy, the fetus develops limbs and digits. अब यहाँ पे एंड दिया हुआ है एनसीईआरटी में, बट क्वेश्चन में चेंज करके आ सकता है बाय द स्टार्ट ऑफ 2nd मंथ, बट करेक्ट है यहाँ पे बाय द एंड ऑफ 2nd मंथ ऑफ प्रेगनेंसी द फीटस डेवलप्स लिम्स एंड डिजिट. सेकंड मंथ के एंड में आ जाते हैं लिम्स एंड डिजिट्स. बाय द एंड ऑफ 12 वीक्स दैट इज फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर मोस्ट ऑफ द मेजर ऑर्गन्स आर फॉर्म्ड. मेजर ऑर्गन फॉर्म हो जाते हैं 12 वीक्स की प्रेगनेंसी में, जिसे फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर कहते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल द लिम्स एंड द एक्सटर्नल जेनिटल ऑर्गन्स आर वेल डेवलप्ड. The first movement of the fetus and the appearance of hair on the head are usually observed during the 5th month. The first movement of the fetus and appearance of hair on the head are usually observed during the 5th month. कौन से मंथ में ऑब्जर्व होते हैं? 5th मंथ में. ठीक है. By the end of about 24 weeks, that is end of second trimester. By the end of about 24 weeks, that is एंड ऑफ सेकंड ट्राइमेस्टर जिसे कहते हैं 24 वीक्स, क्योंकि 12 वीक का फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर होता है. ठीक है. बाय द एंड ऑफ अबाउट 24 वीक्स दैट इज एंड ऑफ सेकंड ट्राइमेस्टर द बॉडी इज कवर्ड विथ फाइन हेयर, eyelids separate and eyelashes are formed. By the end of 9 months of pregnancy the fetus is fully developed and the fetus is fully developed and is ready for delivery. Next is parturition and lactation. The average duration of human pregnancy is about 9 months, which is called as the gestation period. Vigorous contraction of the uterus at the end of pregnancy causes expulsion, that is delivery of the fetus. The process of delivery of the fetus, that is childbirth. The process of delivery of the fetus, that is childbirth, is called parturition. Parturition is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. The signals for the parturition originate from the fully developed fetus and the placenta, which induces mild uterine contraction called fetal ejection reflux. किससे सिग्नल ऑरिजिनेट होते हैं पार्चुरेशन के? फ्रॉम द फुल्ली डेवलप्ड fetus and the placenta, which induce mild contraction called fetal ejection reflux. This triggers release of oxytocin from the maternal pituitary. Oxytocin acts on the uterine muscles and causes stronger uterine contraction, which in turn stimulates further secretion of oxytocin. Oxytocin acts on the uterine muscle and causes stronger uterine contractions, which in turn stimulate further secretion of oxytocin. The stimulatory reflex between the uterine contraction and the oxytocin secretion continues, resulting in stronger and stronger contractions. This leads to the expulsion of the baby out of the uterus through the birth canal, that is parturition. Soon after the infant is delivered, the placenta is also expelled out of the uterus. What do you think the doctors inject to induce delivery? What do you think the doctors inject to induce delivery? बताओ, क्या सोचते हो तुम? डॉक्टर क्या इंड्यूस करते हैं डिलीवरी के वक्त? दैट इज डॉक्टर्स इंजेक्ट ऑक्सीटोसिन, ए हार्मोन दैट कॉजेज यूटेराइन कॉन्ट्रैक्शंस to induce labor pain. ठीक है. The mammary gland of the female undergo differentiation during pregnancy and starts producing milk towards the end of pregnancy by the process called lactation. The mammary gland of the female undergo differentiation during pregnancy and starts producing milk towards the end of pregnancy by the process called lactation. This helps the mother in feeding the newborn. The milk produced during the initial few days of the lactation is called colostrum, which contains several antibodies absolutely essential to develop resistance for the newborn baby. Several antibodies की जगह यहाँ पे चेंज करके कुछ भी कर सकता है, बट करेक्ट है, contains several antibodies. The milk produced during the initial few days of lactation is called colostrum, which contains several antibodies absolutely essential to develop resistance for the newborn babies. Breastfeeding during the initial period of infant growth is recommended by doctors for bringing up a healthy baby. क्या रिकमेंड करता है? ब्रेस्ट फीडिंग मीन्स स्तनपान. We are going to read the summary in a quick way. So listen. Humans are sexually reproducing and viviparous. The male reproductive system is composed of a pair of testes, the male sex accessory duct and the accessory gland and the external genitalia. The male reproductive system is composed of a pair of testes, the male sex accessory ducts and the accessory glands and external genitalia. क्या क्या कंटेन करता है? The male reproductive system is composed of a pair of testes, the male sex accessory ducts and the accessory glands and external genitalia. ठीक है, pair of testes, male sex accessory ducts, accessory glands or external genitalia. Each testis has about 250 compartment called testicular lobules and each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules. Each seminiferous tubule is lined inside by spermatogonia. इससे लाइन spermatogonia and Sertoli cell. Each seminiferous tubule is lined inside by spermatogonia and Sertoli cell. The spermatogonia undergo meiotic division leading to sperm formation, while the Sertoli cells provide nutrition to the dividing germ cell. The Leydig cell outside the seminiferous tubule synthesize and secrete testicular hormones called androgen. The male external genitalia is called penis. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviducts, a uterus and a vagina, external genitalia and a pair of mammary gland. क्या क्या include होता है? Female reproductive system consists of pair of ovaries, pair of oviducts, a uterus, a vagina, external genitalia and a pair of mammary glands. ठीक है. The ovary produce the female gamete that is ovum and some steroid hormones that is ovarian hormones. Ovarian follicles in different stages of development are embedded in the stroma. Ovarian follicles in different stages of development are embedded in the stroma. The oviducts, uterus and vagina are female accessory ducts. ठीक है, the oviduct, uterus and vagina are female accessory ducts. Accessory ducts में कौन कौन आते हैं? oviduct आती है, uterus आती है और vagina आती है. The uterus has 3 layers, namely perimetrium, myometrium and endometrium. The female external genitalia includes mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. क्या क्या include होते हैं? Labia majora, labia minora, mons pubis, hymen and clitoris. The mammary glands are one of the female secondary sexual characteristics. The mammary gland are one of the female secondary sexual characteristics. Spermatogenesis results in the formation of sperm that are transported by the male sex accessory ducts. A normal human sperm is composed of a head, neck, a middle piece and tail. क्या क्या? Head, neck, middle piece और tail. The process of formation of mature female gamete is called oogenesis. The reproductive cycle of female primate is called the menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle starts only after attaining sexual maturation, that is puberty. During ovulation, only one ovum is released per menstrual cycle. The cyclical changes in the ovary and the uterus during menstrual cycle are induced by changes in the level of pituitary and ovarian hormones. In the levels of pituitary and ovarian hormones. After coitus, sperms are transported to the ampulla. After coitus, sperms are transported to the ampulla where the sperm fertilizes the ovum, leading to the formation of a diploid zygote. The presence of X or Y chromosome in the sperm determines the sex of the embryo. The zygote undergo repeated mitotic divisions to form a blastocyst. The zygote undergo repeated mitotic division to form a blastocyst, which is implanted in the uterus resulting in pregnancy. ठीक है, कौन लीड करता है? ब्लास्टोसिस्ट. कहाँ पे इम्प्लांट होता है? यूट्रस में. किसमें रिजल्ट करता है? प्रेगनेंसी में. ठीक है. आफ्टर 9 months of pregnancy, the fully developed fetus is ready for delivery. The process of childbirth is called parturition, which is induced by complex neuroendocrine mechanism involving cortisol, estrogen, and oxytocin. The process of childbirth is called parturition, which is induced by the complex neuroendocrine mechanism involving cortisol, estrogens, and oxytocin. ठीक है. The process of childbirth is called parturition, which is induced by the complex neuroendocrine mechanism involving cortisol, estrogens, and oxytocin. Mammary glands differentiate during pregnancy and secrete milk after the childbirth. The newborn baby is fed milk by the mother, that is lactation, during the initial few months of the growth. With this, we completed the chapter. Thank you for hearing.